Hi, this is Dave with Market Trading Concepts, closing out the week for Friday, July the 20th. This is Saturday, July the 21st as I record this video. So let's start off and take a look at the Dow Futures on the daily chart here. You can see that we came down and we held this trend line, and then we pushed off and we broke through these highs just by a little bit, and then we printed a doji on the day, and then we pulled back coming into the close of Friday, and we held the 8 EMA support here. So on looking at this market, there's a couple of different things that I'm looking at, and last week we were talking about coming back up and retesting these highs. We did that. Ultimately, I'm looking for a retest of these highs somewhere up in here, and I mentioned that last week as well. But you can see here, you can see a certain structure in place where the market's been doing this, and we're not really getting a lot of follow through. So it's kind of trending, but a little bit choppy and volatile. I guess we could call it trending and volatile. So what I'm kind of looking at here is we still have this structure in place. We're holding this trend line, and I was looking at this move here. If you look at the symmetry of this move, and what I mean by symmetry is you have the distance from this high to this low. You can see this indicator has been printed on here. If you measure the distance from this high to this low, it is almost the same. So let's see what that looks like. So let me grab the tool here. Okay, so the tool is a Fibonacci extension line, and I will just need to delete. Let me just draw this and delete it. I will first need to, let's see here, delete this one out. Okay, so you can see I have it drawn in there. So let me delete it and redo it. And you can see this move here. So from this high to this low, you can project it from this high, and you can see the 100% comes in right around here. So what that's telling us is that this move, there was symmetry between this pullback and this pullback. So on that basis, what I want to do is look at where, if we maintain this kind of structure with the same kind of symmetry with the pullbacks, where a pullback might bring us to. So we're going to go from this high to this low, and then we're going to project it from this high, and you can see the 100% would bring us somewhere back down to support. So as long as we don't break that level of 12,444, we're probably going to maintain the uptrend. So what I'm really looking at, though, is I would like to see this kind of hold support, tighter up in here, and then just kind of push off and retest those highs. We are really choppy, but I am more bullish than bearish. So at this point in time, if we get a pullback all the way down to, some of these levels, 12,444, 12,521, which has been the major support, and as long as we hold, these swing lows, this swing point low or these swing point lows here, I think the case could be made that we are more bullish than bearish. Now, this isn't really what you'd want to see for a swing trading environment. You're getting the couple of days up, couple of day pullbacks. You're getting 5 up days, 5-6 down days, 5 up days. Are we going to get, is next week going to be a down week? I don't know. But I am looking at these areas as support areas, and I am looking at a potential hold of this trend line and to push off. What would change my mind would be a failure of these swing points or some decisive closes below this level and below this level and below this trend line. So it's a little bit tenuous, it's a little bit choppy. We're not really getting any clear direction. We did get a sort of breakout of this wedge, but it failed soon afterwards and pulled back to support. So another scenario that I'd be looking to play out would be for it to come down here, hold somewhere in this trend line, and then push off. And I would actually prefer that scenario rather than get a pullback all the way down to here, or down to here, or down to here, because it makes it very difficult as a trend trader. It makes it very difficult to stay with any moves for any period of time. So I hope that makes sense. Let's take a look at the other indexes and see what they're telling us. Okay, let's take a look at the S&P futures. You kind of have the same situation. It's holding, these trend lines a little bit cleaner. You had a breakout above this wedge, this downtrend line, the top of the wedge came down here. We're kind of looking for the same scenario, either here or there. Kind of the same scenario. Nothing really different to look at. The only thing that I do like better is, I'd like to see these peaks. You've got these peaks and troughs. I'd like to see this peak a little bit higher, so that we're not looking at any potential divergences. So I don't want to see a situation like this, where this is a lower peak. I would like to see this situation here where this is higher. This is high, this is higher, and this is higher. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. If you look at this from kind of a wave count perspective, you've got 1, 2, and 3. So, and you've got, here's a 1 test of the trend line, 2 tests of the trend line. Hopefully the third will hold. If it does even come back there, I'd rather see it do this and then push right off to retest some of these highs. That's kind of what I'm more expecting to see, but in this market anything can happen. So let's now take a look at the NASDAQ and see if that's telling us a different story. Okay, so here's the NASDAQ futures. Kind of looks like the same situation, right? You've got a higher high, slightly higher high. I'm a little bit concerned about this here. I'd like to see this, somewhere up there. It's a minor divergence, but if we do the same thing that I'm expecting. Not necessarily expecting, because it's not really important to predict the markets. In fact, it's better not to try to predict the markets, but just kind of figure out which way they're going and get on board for the ride. But what I'm sort of expecting here, and again, this is not trading advice, this is just commentary, this is just my opinion. I'm kind of expecting it to hold somewhere in here. I don't really want to see it come back all the way down to this trend line. But I'm looking for the same situation. The NASDAQ looks the same as the S&P and the Dow Futures. So there's nothing really different going on here. The other indexes look a little bit stronger. And from a chart formation perspective, in terms of how close they are to their recent highs. But this looks like it's telling us the same story as the other stock index futures. Okay, now let's take a look at the Dow futures from the Darvish squeeze perspective. So let's start with the weekly chart and expand it out. The weekly chart it's in a weekly squeeze, which is telling us we're probably going to get some big moves coming up here. You can see the last couple of weekly squeezes here. You had this weekly squeeze fire off, and then you had this Darvish squeeze break out to the high side when we had the last major run up on the weekly chart, and you can see it almost hit this target up here, but it brought us into these highs of 13,240 on the weekly charts, and you can see that was preceded by this Darvish squeeze breakout in and around this area at 12,000, almost around 12,000 even, 12,000 and maybe 20. But you can see here, even when we had this Darvish squeeze short fire, it brought us down to 10,400-ish. And so you can see now that we've had this major uptrend, right? Let me just draw this out. And I apologize, this is a little bit messy because of all the printing this indicator does on here. But you can see we've had this kind of major uptrend here, and then we've had this minor pullback, minor within the context of the weekly chart. So we've had this pullback here. This to me looks like a higher low, and now we're kind of pushing back up to the high side, and now what we've got is this Darvis squeeze in place. So I'm going to be looking at this very closely on the weekly chart. This could take a number of weeks in order to play out, but this is signaling that we may have a very big potential move coming up within the next, month or so. It could be anywhere from the next, who knows, the next week to the next 2 months. This is a weekly chart. These are multi-week moves, and they take several weeks to play out. Okay, not only to play out, but just to set up in general. So I'll be looking at this. This looks really interesting to me. It's right in the middle of this this weekly Darvis box range, but this is going to be a very powerful signal, I believe, when it fires off. I'll be keeping an eye on that and keeping you all informed for those that are watching these videos. So now let's zoom out and let's take a look now at the daily chart. Now the daily chart fired a Darvis squeeze breakout to the long side, and in last week's video we were saying we're going to be looking for direction outside of this Darvis squeeze and out of this Darvis box. So you can see here we fired along. We've got blue Hakanashis here. Our trending indicator is not strong, but it's to the bullish side. MACD's bullish, long squeeze, blue Hakanashis, and we broke out of this Darvis box around 12,918. So you can see we broke out and then we pulled right back. So I'm more bullish than bearish on this market. As I mentioned when we were looking at the other charts from from a different perspective here, we're not really, we're kind of going sideways here, but we're trying to kind of grind higher. So for the time being, I'm looking at this from multiple perspectives, and from the Darvis squeeze perspective, I'm still net a cautious bull. Okay, I'm still net a cautious bull on the market. Okay, so now let's take a look at some of the other charts and see what they're telling us. Let's see here. The S&P, I don't think there's anything to report on these charts. We don't really have any fresh signals firing off like we do in the Dow. Okay, but we do have a slight break of some of these Darvis boxes. Taking a look at the transports, we have on the weekly chart the same situation where we're kind of in the middle of this range. We're in the middle of this Darvis box range here, and we've got an elongated squeeze. So we've got a Darvis squeeze setting up on the weekly chart as well. So there's you've kind of got alignment there with the transports and the Dow in terms of those both setting up. So that should signal a fairly big move. We did get a short squeeze on the daily and the weekly chart, a Darvis squeeze short on the VIX. So this is kind of interesting here, where it just kind of fired here. Here's the weekly chart. So this is boding for higher stock prices here. When the VIX goes lower, stock indexes should go higher. There's the weekly chart. Now let's take a look at the daily chart. Is kind of there's a confluence of signals between the two, and you can see it broke its daily Darvis box here while it was in a squeeze, but it lost momentum right away. So everything's sort of looking good for the stock indexes long, because they do move in versus the VIX, but they're not really following through quickly. So we'll have to keep an eye on those. And I am cautious that, this is a very touchy market and things could reverse at any time. But I am net bullish on the market for those reasons. So that's kind of all that I have for the stock index futures. We are at about 14 minutes for this video. I was going to cover the euro and cover the US dollar index. I'll save that for a video for next weekend, next week's market recap. So I'm just going to cover the stock indices for this week. I hope that helps. We have a meetup coming up next week, technical analysis part 5. So it will be chart reading and technical analysis part 5. We'll be covering different market modes and different phases, and we'll be covering specifically different approaches to the market in terms of looking at the markets from a reversion to the mean sort of outlook and looking at the markets from a breakout momentum type of outlook. So you notice if you watched a couple of my videos, I look at the markets using different charts, and usually what I'm looking at is I'm looking at, you know, pullback opportunities. I'm not sure what that is. I'm looking at pullback opportunities, or I'm looking at the markets from a reversion to the mean kind of standpoint, and I'm looking at the markets from a breakout momentum type of standpoint or perspective, which is you know, the Darvas squeeze setup. So I think it's important to look at the market in different ways, and that's one of the things that we'll be talking about at next week's meetup. So we hope to see you all there. Make sure that you do join up. I'll just link you over to the page here. Okay, so here is the here's the sign up page for the meetup. You can come to meetup.com Burlington-active-traders-investors. So it's the Burlington Active Traders and Investors Meetup. We've recently had a name change. You can come over and link over right to this site here. You would have to register for Meetup if you don't belong to the Meetup site, and then you would have to sign up to the group, and then you can come over to upcoming meetups here, and that will bring you over to this link here where you can register. Now, we just scheduled the meetup yesterday. We were a little bit late in scheduling the meetup just because we kind of decided to actually run it this month. We were going to cancel it because a lot of people are on holidays, but we decided just to move forward with it. So there's 15 spots left at this point in time. We usually hit capacity in these meetups. Not sure how busy it's going to be because of the the end of July. A lot of people are on holidays, but it'll be a great meetup. We're going to cover market modes, phases, and behavioral patterns. We'll be covering some of the concepts of, you know, reversion to the mean, breakout momentum, different market modes, phases, behavioral patterns. So it should be a great meetup. We're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to seeing all the extended community members of our trading community, and we'll look forward to discussing new concepts and moving forward in the meetup segments. We'll probably be heading towards somewhere around eight or so of these educational type of meetups where we do presentations, and then we'll be getting back to our usual format. Now, so the way that these meetups work, we're going to have probably 1 hour of presentation. And usually the way that works is the first 30 minutes will be actually the presentation. And then what we do is for another 30 minutes, we do Q&A. And then the rest of the meetup, about 1 hour or so, is for networking and talking to other traders, asking questions, and basically just learning about different concepts from different people. And it's all meant to help you in your trading moving forward, learning from other traders, sharing ideas, concepts, etc., and building your network of people that you can communicate with as you go along your trading journey. So I hope that helps. I apologize for the wordy explanation of this. If you're interested, come to the sign up to the meetup, Burlington Active Traders and Investors, and we'll look forward to seeing you next weekend. And if you're not able to make it, we'll look forward to seeing you at the next meetup.